Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1v1 game, random versus undead. I'm going to be the random player. I have spawned as Elf. The map is Turtle Rock, as you can see. We'll do this perspective on his end, just to show you that there's some fall clicking going on. This guy actually was a map hacker, which during the game I did not really suspect it. I don't think, because he didn't really blatantly abuse it. Well, he did. Looking back, he did sort of blatantly fall clicking all over the place. But anyway, regardless of all that, he's going to be doing an early hero build, ghoul build on this map. I'm going to be doing a tavern build, and the tavern hero that I and thinking about going for is going to be the Dark Ranger. One reason for that is the Dark Ranger creeps really well on most maps, but on this map specifically, she creeps pretty well. Pretty easy methods to get level 3. You can go for this green camp, and then this red camp. There's a lot of creeps with medium armor, which take a lot from the normal damage of the skeletons. All three of the turtles here on these green camps take extra from the skeletons. And again, if you want to do these middle gold mines, actually 2 of the 3 turtles take extra. And this chaos damage gargantuan sea turtle is going to focus. Normally he's pretty annoying. He focuses like the lowest hit point unit that's nearby, attacking him generally for melee units and heroes. But again, that is actually going to help you if you've got skeletons, because usually they'll be pretty low hit point units compared to your other units. So, and archers are ranged, so you can generally make that turtle sort of focus on the skeletons. And again, you can usually creep that pretty easily as well. So, anyway, he's actually also throwing up a graveyard, so he's not going to be doing a crazy hardcore ghoul rush, though a graveyard actually gives him the option to try to do like a sacrificial skull push. You know, he could potentially tower me if he catches me, you know, doing some really aggressive creeping, or you know, making the wrong units, something like that. He can go for sort of an all-in push. So I do a little bit of troll chatting here, just saying something goofy. I find the best way to beat undead is to make a better army, get stronger heroes, and just keep kicking their tail. So that's going to be obviously true for any matchup. So you know, if you need to get better Warcraft 3, there's some golden advice for you. But anyway. So he's going to be creeping. I'm going to be creeping. I don't want to go for the camp right by his base, because I was sort of thought that he would potentially be able to come, you know, make it really annoying with Death Coil. So I took the safer, more conservative route and crept this green camp, and I'm going over for this orange camp. Now again, against a map hacker, it's important to be a little bit conservative creeping, and B, generally avoiding you know, fighting in bad situations like right by their base. It's generally not the best idea, especially with archers going. They're not gonna be fast moving, so generally a little bit risky to engage ghouls with archers. So it looked like he was maybe thinking about coming to stop me, but I've got all these skeletons. I'm actually not going to take hardly any damage on my archers from this creep camp, and you know, I'm just going to remake the skeletons. I am getting the archer hit by this ogre, so that was a little bit of a mistake. But the one thing I will point out is, you know, generally people, you know, if you've been playing this game a long time, you'll understand that the damage armor types are important, but this not only applies to units, you know, that your opponent has, but also creeping. You'll notice that, like I was saying, several of these turtles are going to have medium armor, some of the trolls, etc. So you know, if you've got some normal damage units, usually it's a good idea to focus them. Also, little subtleties, like archers having Elun's Grace, they take a significantly amount of damage reduction from piercing attacks, and also some damage reduction on magic attacks. But again, the creeps are generally going to be either normal or piercing damage. So if you've got some archers and you can get the piercing creeps to focus them, you want to try to do that. And then also, you don't want to tank normal damage on the archers because they take extra. So again, kind of getting back to the game though, I'm going in here, I'm harassing with the archers, he's coming in with the ghouls. I'm going to go immediately for the acolytes. They're going to be sort of the weak point in his army right now. He definitely could have coiled that one, I'm not exactly sure. Just sort of bad play on his end, but notice I've killed 2 of the acolytes, and again, why he's not coiling this one, he's going to lose a 3rd acolyte. So it's really sort of odd to me that he didn't try to coil those acolytes and save them, because it's a really big deal losing those in terms of your economy. That's 3 out of 5 acolytes. That's that's 60% of his gold income for that amount of time. Plus he had to pull all the acolytes. Well, he didn't have to, but he ended up pulling all the acolytes off the gold mine to try to avoid my hero harass. So that's always something you can do. A lot of times Undead will get an Nerubian tower. He actually didn't have his towers, any kind of towers up when I ran in there, so that was fairly easy to do. Again, it's a little bit, you might think it's a little bit weird to harass like that with a Dark Ranger, but with level 2 black arrows, she's gonna, if you can get any kills, it's going to be, very easy to sort of get more kills as you're getting, the skeletons popping up. So if you kill, 1 acolyte, the next one should be easier until, if they got death coil or something like that. And, definitely if you kill 2, it's going to be pretty easy to kill a 3rd. So, generally can cause some havoc in there. I don't think he really expected me to do that with this kind of hero. But it is possible. You do get a lot of damage from level 2 black arrows. And I noticed I picked up a panda and a pretty good item here at the True Shot, Alara's Flute of Accuracy. But again, one of the reasons I pick up a panda is the panda is very, very effective against, he's really effective against many races, but Undead specifically, they don't really have a magic immune unit at tier 2 that they could sort of switch to, like Mass Breakers or something like that, to make the panda ineffective. The panda is very strong against ghouls. He's fairly strong even against fiends, and if they go for like gargoyles, which again, it used to be sort of the standard against elf, but unless you're going straight into dual crypt gargoyles, it's not generally that great of a strategy. So I notice he's only got the 1 crypt, so he's going for a tier 3 tech, fiends and ghouls. So the panda is going to be very strong against that, but again, he's strong against pretty much nearly anything the Undead can throw at you. Maybe Adept Banshees can sort of mitigate it, but other than that, A-Bombs, Abominations, and Frostworms, and Destroyers, those are all tier 3 units, so usually the Panda is going to be a pretty solid addition. And I'm trying to expand over here. He's sent a skeleton there to seemingly to scout, but actually we know he's a map hacker, so it's not really the case. But anyway, I send my I'm doing some split creeping with the panda, and I don't really need to get, not that it wouldn't be great to have level 4 and 5 on the Dark Ranger, but I would much rather get level 3 on the panda, as it'll be a little bit easier. And this is a really unfortunate situation. I mistimed that teleport scroll, and he was able to kill my Dark Ranger with all his DPS, so really hurt me there losing that level 3 hero. And again, I didn't quite get level 3 on my panda. So he is level 4 and 1 at the moment. Not too threatening. I killed a lot of his acolytes, so that offset it a little bit. I say a lot of, maybe 2 acolytes. I'm not really sure, but at any rate, this is a point where I don't really want to engage him. My level 2 Death Coil is really strong against archers, even though they get the magic damage reduction. That's offset by the fact that they only have 245 hit points, which is really, really low. Notice the ghouls, which are a low hit point unit, actually have you know, 100 more hit points than archers. So that's, you know, it's really sort of frustrating a lot of times. If your archer is getting picked off, it's very easy to do that. So this is not going going favorably for me. I just lost, like, I don't even know, 5, 6 archers maybe. I lost a lot trying to run from them. At least 3 or 4. So pretty much most of my archers. Now I'm transitioning into dryads. The main reason for this is dryads are magic immune. You know, with the poison damage and everything, they are a really good support unit, but also they do decent damage. The only sort of downside is they take extra from piercing damage compared to archers, which you know, get a lot of damage reduction on piercing. And 2 is their range. They don't have as long a range as archers do. And I guess the third one you might say is their DPS isn't quite up to par with the archers, but slightly slower attack speed, but they offset this by being magic immune and slowing down everything they hit and doing some poison damage. So the slow effect is really what I'm going for, though. I'm going to be relying on sort of my heroes to be doing a lot of the DPS. And the other advantage for the dryads is their fast movement speed, which is going to help them get in and out of battles and really take advantage of that poison ability. So notice he lost a lot of his units there, and every unit that he loses that I'm hitting with Black Arrow obviously is going to be giving me skeletons, which is great against fiends. It's great before he gets destroyers, and again, it's really good against ghouls as well. So it's, you know, as the battle starts to sort of turn, even if we're just trading units, if my kills are turning into extra units, obviously that's going to put him in a bad spot the longer a battle goes. So notice I've pretty much killed off all of his units now, except for his heroes and these 2 ghouls. I knocked out his Toma relics. So if he's going to rebuild, you know, if he's going to continue building statues, if he's going to get the destroyer upgrade, I think he's going to need that Toma relics for the destroyer upgrade, but definitely to build the statues, he's going to need it. So, and also he's probably going to want to get an orb of corruption, so he's going to have to rebuild that. So I'm a little bit low on lumber, but dryads are fairly lumber intensive, but I've got this expansion, so I can sort of, you know, afford to pump out stuff pretty well, including wisps, lumber wisps. So anyway, the other skill that I'm pretty sure that I went for with the Dark Ranger is Silence. Silence is very, very strong against undead because there's a number of things you can do. One way you can use it is just hit them with Silence to slow down their nuking abilities on their heroes. That's pretty strong. And the other way is if you silence their Death Knight and then you go for the Lich kill or go for any kind of kill, he's not going to be able to death coil while he's silenced, obviously. So, you know, if the Lich is sort of like, you know, 60, 50% hit points, I can silence that Death Knight. Usually they're going to wait until the Lich, you know, is maybe more around 40 hit points or so, depending on what kind of heroes you're rocking with. But in this case, he'd probably be a little bit more risky because I don't really have a solid nuking hero. I've got, you know, the Panda does, you know, Breath of Fire, but that's an AoE ability, which means the damage is sort of more spread out. And the Dark Ranger is not a sort of burst damage hero. So
research complete.
But on the other side of the coin, though, is if I can prevent him from healing that Lich. You know, the Lich generally isn't a really great tanking hero, so you know, preventing him from you know, death coiling the hero and units is going to be very potentially very useful, especially since offensively I'm going to have, you know, most of my units are going to be magic immune, as I'm sticking with the dryads here. So, you know, his targets for offensively coiling me are going to be sort of limited. But anyway, I'm creeping this out. Notice how effective the Dark Ranger is at creeping. You know, any camp that I creep is generally going to leave me with skeletons, especially once you get level 2 or 3 Black Arrow. I think I probably went for level 3 Silence, but I can't really remember. But anyway, again, I picked up some solid items. I got Gloves of Haste, a Command Aura, or not Command Aura, excuse me, Endurance Aura, Ancient Django of Endurance, one of the better auras, the best aura, according to me. One of the best auras, at least top 3, definitely, according to pretty much anyone. But anyway, it's going to add damage and faster movement speed, and again, the other aura that I've gotten, the Flute of Accuracy, is going to add damage. So again, his army is still mostly ghouls, which is pretty much a big mistake. Honestly, at this point, my panda at level 4, I mean, not that fiends are going to be totally immune to that, but the ghouls cannot really stand, you know, 1 or 2 Breath of Fires, especially Drunken Haze Breath of Fire. Those ghouls are going to drop immediately, and then, you know, then what's he going to be left with? Pretty much nothing. I think he's going to start getting abominations, but the bad part about his situation now is my Dark Ranger is level 5, so the longer this game goes, the more potential there is for me getting level 6, which as soon as I get level 6, his abominations are going to be more of a liability and less of a strength, as I can just charm them and instantly steal them. There's going to be a huge swing in terms of army strength. You know, he's going to be instantly losing a 4 food tier 3 melee unit, potentially at full hit points, and I'm going to be gaining 1. So that's like an 8 food swing, and charm's cooldown is pretty short actually. So not doing the best job microing here, but I do get the healing ruin, so it's not that big of a deal. So, and now I'm going to pick up the War Song Battle Drums. So I actually end up getting 3 auras that are going to boost my damage. Now it only adds 4 damage to the Dryads. Even with upgrades, their DPS isn't huge. And again, some of that damage added from those auras is attack speed, so it's not, you know, it's not like only 4 damage. It's 4 damage plus, you know, whatever the attack rate is for this aura item. It might be, I'm sort of assuming it's 10, not entirely sure, plus 10 attack speed, 10% attack speed, but regardless, 10% isn't a whole lot on Dryads. It's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, you know, 2 or 3 damage. Probably a little bit more than 2. 2.2 or something like that. So, anyway, he's trying to run now. On my panda, I've got some great items, but again, his situation is, at this point, is pretty much hopeless. I've got this expansion up, and I'm making all these Ancients of War in front of it. One thing that Elf can do that, not that Undead can't make, you know, they can make towers that don't cost food, but they're really expensive comparatively to the Ancients of War. But the problem with towers is you can't uproot towers and like attack an expansion, or, you know, try to lure an army into them. Usually it's hard to lure somebody into a bunch of undead towers. So but on the other side, the elf player, you know, if you've got a bunch of Ancients of War, especially with Nature's Blessing, and again, this battle is pretty lopsided. You know, the army food counts were probably a little bit in my favor, but his army composition was pretty much terrible. And again, these heroes are very strong against what he was using. And again, the Dryads are, you know, pretty much immune to magic, so they can largely, you know, they're not, ghouls and A-bombs aren't that big of a threat, and the A-bombs don't have Disease Cloud, which would have sort of helped against the Dryads. But and I'm also adding in dots as I see the A-bombs. But regardless, like I was saying, the Dryads are magic immune, so that sort of, you know, is going to keep them around a lot longer. against undead than say like archers or hunts or something like that. Dots even gonna go down pretty easily to the nuke, but nuking abilities. But again, you know, he's really short on options. Letting my heroes get this powerful, and having, you know, only mostly ghouls in his army. Fiends are much better against dryads because, well, for one reason, they do extra damage against dryads. I think they might actually either have the same or even more range than the dryads. But again, they don't have to get in melee range to do damage. So kiting the fiends is way harder with dryads than it is with ghouls. You know, you can do hit a bunch of ghouls with a volley of dryad shots, and then move back and do it again and again and again. And whereas at least with the fiends, you know, if they're getting in range to hit you with a volley, generally you're in range to hit them with a volley from the fiends. And like I said, I think the fiends are slightly more range actually. So generally, it's gonna require a lot of micro to kite fiends, and you know, with the Orb of Corruption, you can really take dryads out pretty quick with fiends and the Orb of Corruption. But anyway, he decided to go for ghouls and sort of pay for it. So at this point, I'm just sort of having fun now. It's pretty much over. I know it's over. He should know it's over. He doesn't have an expansion up, and I've got I've got one expansion up. I almost got a second one finished here, and I moved my main Tree of Eternity to a third gold mine. So I'm gonna have, you know, my army now is already large enough to really beat him. I could probably, if I really wanted to, I could probably beat him in his base. I'd have to avoid these towers for most of the battle, but I think I would end up getting charm on the Dark Ranger, and potentially being able to steal, you know, whatever units he's got, A-bombs or whatever. So, but regardless, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is just build a bunch of Ancients of War and just wait. You know, he really should just leave the game at this stage. You know, the only thing you can really hope for is you know, maybe me getting a disconnect or something like that, but or being just like totally. If I went AFK and he attacked my army, okay, he maybe could, you know, if he did that, he'd probably beat my army, but as long as I'm casting spells at all, you know, I'm pretty much gonna roll his army easily. So, but even if he did that, it'd still be kind of annoying trying to take out all these Ancients of War. And notice I said the comment about Lord of the Rings earlier, the two towers where all the imps come out of nowhere and just like hit the orcs. Well, he's not orc, but I do have a bunch of ancients that I'm going to go ahead and send at him. So I could go up to 80 food, but it's not really important to do that anymore. Like I was saying, the one thing that elf can do that undead can't really do is they can have sort of these Ancients of War, with Nature's Blessing, even they're pretty slow, but, you know, they sort of function as, you know, bears, but they're a little bit slower than bears, but they do have more hit points, so, and more armor, I do believe, but, again, you can pretty much make sort of, I guess you would say, a sort of substandard unit that's similar to the bear, for cheaper. Ancients of War don't cost as much as Druids of the Claw do, and so, you know, I guess you could say it's a little closer than, you know, the 160 gold. You do have to spend a wisp to get the Ancient, so that's going to be another 60 on top, 220. So, but even with that, it's still a fairly decent deal, and especially against like A-bombs and ghouls, and especially fiends. The only thing you really have to worry about is like frost worms and destroyers and meat wagons. Other than that, if you got this many Ancients of War, the undead is probably gonna have a hard time dealing with that. The nuke spells that, you know, the undead heroes have do not affect buildings. If you had a panda, it'd be a little different, but
Our warriors have engaged.
again, the heroes are not going to be too strong against these ancients. And again, just like a bear, it can heal itself if you devour a tree, eat a tree. The ancient war is going to heal itself. And so I'm coming at him with all these ancients. They're really slow, but I really wanted to sort of do this. You know, again, the game was pretty much over. He could have quit at any time. You might say it's a little humiliating to lose as badly and have, you know, your opponent mass a bunch of buildings, but you know, it's really whatever. Just having a bit of fun here. So I didn't really didn't call a maneuver or anything like that, you know. So I feel alright about it, and it's a little bit of an underrated thing. I think there's certain circumstances where this, you know, this is less of a trolling thing and more of an actual counter to certain sort of army compositions. Now, again, against all these melee units, you know, it's not, you know, it's a pretty decent counter because obviously he's gonna have to get in melee range to do anything to these ancients. So, you know, he can't really kite the ancients of war down with just A-bombs and ghouls. But again, like I was saying, against fiends, they can kite better, but the ancients of war are going to do way more against fiends in terms of damage. So, you know, they're pretty decent, sort of just as a general tanking unit. So that was that game. Again, when I look back at the replay and noticed this guy was a map hacker, that just added even more. You know, that's another reason I don't really feel bad for doing that, is because, you know, looking back, the guy was a map hacker, so it's like, you know, he's already cheating. You know, I'm a legit player, so he was starting the game with an advantage over me, being able to see the whole map without scouting anything. So not too sad about the way that game ended. I thought it was pretty fun, actually. So Dark Ranger and Panda, you know, potentially a strategy to use against undead. Again, the Dark Ranger is going to be immune to Death Coil. So really, if you end up with a bunch of Dryads, a Dark Ranger, and then a Panda, the Panda is going to be his only sort of target for Death Coil. And in this particular game, Death Coil and Nova, in terms of enemy units. But in this particular game, I ended up picking up the item that reduces magic damage on the hero, and I ended up picking up some extra hit point items like Periapt, however you pronounce it, and some circlets and stuff like that. So, and the Panda is a strength hero, so pretty difficult to really, especially at level 4 and 5, to really nuke him down. So, but anyway, that was a pretty good game, I thought. The guy had decent APM. I think it was like a 100 and maybe 120 or something like that. So, you know, it was you know, his decision making was a little bit questionable, but he had map hack and he had over 100 APM. So, you know, not the worst game of all time, but anyway, that was this replay. Hopefully you got some sort of interesting ideas here. The Ancients of War, if you're gonna make Ancients of War and use them sort of offensively, or you know, as a tanking unit, you need to get Nature's Blessing, because that upgrade gives the Ancients of War like 5 extra armor, and it makes them move quicker. So the movement speed is really important. It's way easier to kite them with, you know, with only 2 armor and I think it's 2 armor and you know, the slower movement speed before you get Nature's Blessing. So that's a really important thing. If you're gonna do that, it's you know, in terms of its cost, for its impact on the Ancients of War, it's a very cost efficient upgrade. Like if you compare it to like a unit upgrade, It's a little bit more than sort of the standard armor upgrade or something like that, but you also get the movement speed boost, which is pretty strong. And again, 5 extra armor on a building with 1,000 hit points is way better than 2 extra armor on an archer with 245 hit points. So now again, taking into account the Lude's Grace, a little bit different, but still, 1,000 hit points is way more. You're gonna get way more impact with the armor on the Ancients of War, with the armor on the Ancients of War than on the archers. So, if you had to if you're trying to think where you want to spend your money on upgrades, obviously if you don't have any many Ancients of War, or if you don't plan on making a bunch, you can sort of ignore that upgrade. It does help, in base races and stuff, and getting your walking your main to an expansion, but otherwise, it's sort of a take it or leave it thing. It's kind of like fortified burrows for orc or something like that. So, but anyway, on certain maps with choke points and stuff, Ancients of War are going to be decent. Dark Ranger and Panda, I feel like that's a pretty solid combination against undead. Again, you're probably going to want to mass dryads with this combination. You could go for bears, but I think the counter units to this army, or at least these hero choices, would be destroyers, because you can devour skeletons. I think you can devour silence, and you can devour drunken haze, and they're magic immune. So, those are sort of some of the counter units to these heroes. And if you're massing bears, you're not really gonna probably have enough DPS to deal with something like frostworms, or frostworms and destroyers, or something like that. So, but again, bears and dryads would be a choice as well. It's just trying to get those bears, getting those bears out there in numbers and everything is going to require taking the tier 3. So, and I wanted to get that expansion up. So, but anyway, hopefully you found this somewhat entertaining. You might never have seen a replay where somebody made 31 Ancients of War in a 1v1 game. It's probably fairly rare to see that. But always try to think of, think outside the box and try to have some fun with this game. So this is ScryMind signing out.